Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Men's Olympic Hockey edition of the Ice Guys, Saturday, February 14th. Ian Cameron, and no, not Alex B. Smith this time. Alex is off tonight, and I decided, you know what? I could either do the show solo tonight to preview the Saturday games in Men's Olympic Hockey, or we can bring on a special guest. And I had one clear choice in mind because I know for a fact, I know there's the Terry Edelmans of the world and the Perlos of the world, and some of the other people we had in mind maybe to be a guest here on this show are they're into the tournament. I guarantee you nobody's as into the tournament as this guy right here on screen. He has been talking about it for weeks. He's been mentioning it on Twitter for weeks. He's doing a hockey news show throughout the tournament, talking about it. And I know he's as excited and as enthusiastic and as into the Men's Olympic Hockey Tournament as anybody I know. You know him well, our former full-time member of the Ice Guys show, Andrew McGinnis, joining us with me here to preview the Saturday games. Andrew, what's going on? How are you doing? Things good?
Ian, happy Friday night to you. It's always a pleasure being here. Thanks for the intro. Can't wait to see this tournament move on. Can't wait to break down some of these games with you. Look forward to chatting, catching up. And, I'll tell you, last year, the Four Nations tournament, I was shocked, Ian Cameron style, with the fact that nobody really got up for that Four Nations. Nobody figured it was going to be that special. And it just really caught everybody by storm. When you've got people that usually run ESPN shows like Stephen A. Smith and other talking heads, when you've got them talking hockey, you've done something right. And that tournament itself, even the games that didn't involve Canada, USA, Sweden, Finland, that did great. And it was almost like that was the prequel for what was about to happen a year later at the Winter Olympics. So just super exciting. I think it's good for the casual fan, the diehards like you and myself, but just super exciting. And I always say it's really funny, these international comps, because you're getting kind of football and basketball point spreads in a hockey game.
Yeah, it is. And that's been the fascinating part. And we warned everybody, when we did our preview show, Alex and I, you're not going to be able to transfer all your tried and true NHL betting angles and apply them here to the Men's Olympic Hockey Tournament and expect the same success. That's just not possible. You got to kind of train your mind to think differently a little bit, handicap differently. Obviously, we're dealing with, in certain instances, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 goal spreads in these games on the puck line, as opposed to your standard +1.5, -1.5 that you get for pretty much every NHL game throughout an NHL season. So it's a different way of handicapping. Of course, you're over in Europe, especially with the European teams, they try to focus on just taking care of their own end first. Like, it hasn't been the deluge of goals so far in this for the most part. There's been a few instances of exceptions, of course, but that it's all stuff that you basically have to prepare yourself for and adjust to when you're talking about handicapping and betting Men's Olympic Hockey, especially overseas in Europe, compared to, and remember, they're using IIHF rules, and that's what kind of drives me nuts too. It bothers me that we've got 3-on-3 later on in the tournament for overtime. That's totally absurd. In my opinion, I don't mind doing that for a regular season NHL game, but when we get to the playoffs and we're deciding championships and we're deciding who's the best team in the NHL, we're not doing we're not fiddly fooling around with a 3-on-3 nonsense. We're doing it 5-on-5. You play until you drop dead or you score that goal in sudden death, and that's the way it should be. But unfortunately, we don't have that here. Like, if the NHL was in charge of this, it would be the way it is at Four Nations. You keep playing until there's a goal. And you do it at 5-on-5, but it is what it is. You got to live with it. It's not what
Let's hope we don't get there. That's all we have to hope. Let's hope we don't get there to 3-on-3 overtime.
Yeah. So, and you can tell I'm revving up for one of my rants now. So I'll just cool my jets before I really start going off. No one needs to, no one needs the wrath that Craig Simpson took on the show last night from yours truly.
Oh, I loved it.
I thought I was bang on, and clearly I looked at all the Twitter comments, when these games are on with Johnson and Chris Cuthbert. Everyone thinks Johnson's better. How can you not? He's got way more energy. He gives you way more to sink your teeth into as far as, I never thought of that. Craig Simpson, you never listen to Craig Simpson say, boy, I never thought of that. No, he just tells you something's blatantly obvious all the time. And he does it in that monotone voice. It's like he's totally bored, stiff every time he's calling a game with Cuthbert. It's terrible.
Well, one thing I find too is that people don't realize when you're the color commentator, it's a skill to be able to get a message across in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Because you have to get, like, when I've done university play-by-play before, I've worked with guys that were the color guys and they are the color analysts, and they literally took way too long to make their point that the play was already happening. Like, I had a 2-on-1 developing and the color analyst was still talking about the previous play. Mike Johnson does a perfect job of making a quick point, but then going back to his play-by-play guy. And I feel like that's a skill because he can make a cool point you might not have realized or something to think about. Like you'd always joke around, oh, this team is down 3 goals. They should probably score the next goal. Okay, thanks for the really hard-working insight there on that one. Yeah. But I think that Mike Johnson does a good job of getting in and out. I think it's a real skill to say something knowledgeable but not need to take too long to say it.
Yeah, I find he makes Chris Cuthbert better, too. I find Chris Cuthbert's got a little more pep in his step and in his voice, too, working with a Mike Johnson as opposed to Craig all the time on a Saturday night with Hockey Night in Canada. So that's been noticeable. And by the way, let's give the folks at TSN a lot of credit for the people that are, whoever, I don't know how the chain of command works or who does this, but who hires the TV analysts to work with Gord Miller, who's been their lead hockey voice for 20-plus years now. They brought on Pierre Maguire initially when they made Gord the lead voice. Paul Romanuk left. Gord Miller took over. It was like 2002, and they needed a voice when they got the rights for national games. They made Pierre Maguire. Pierre Maguire's full energy, gives you lots of great insight. Can be entertaining at times as well with the stuff, but he was good at it. And then he moves on to NBC. NBC poached him. He went for the big bucks down in the States. Who the hell wouldn't? A chance to work with NBC, the lead crew with Doc Emmerich and Eddie Olczyk, and Pierre did that for a long time. Why not? So Gord Miller lost Pierre, and TSN had to hire a replacement for Pierre, and they went to Ray Ferraro, who is also excellent, absolutely tremendous analyst. And the same thing happened with Pierre, with Ray. He left for the States. He left for the money, went to ESPN when they got the rights a few years ago to work on their lead crew. And so, again, TSN loses Pierre Maguire. They lose Ray Ferraro. And, again, they got to find a new analyst and a new partner, Andrew, for Gord Miller. And that's when they went with Mike Johnson. And they've hit the jackpot again. They've been another great choice. So I guess under 4.5, we should be betting years. And then Mike Johnson gets poached by an American network and he's gone. So maybe we should be betting that.
Yeah, take the under. Take the under for how long he'll stay there in his spot.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes to show it's why, no matter where you work in life, you got to feel appreciated by your work or else money talks. They'll hop on and go somewhere else, which is kind of interesting. But I think overall, when you look at the crew, you've seen all these memes on Twitter of it's like the Bloods and Crips holding up the bands together with like TSN crew and the Sportsnet panel working together, like James Duthie throwing it to Kevin Bieksa. Like, that's pretty cool, right? Like,
collab,
these guys. It's the collaboration. It's like McKinnon and McDavid on a line together. Now you've got these guys all on lines together. It's all about bringing the best of the best together.
Absolutely. And speaking of bringing the best together, the best players in the world at this tournament have certainly put on a show so far. We will begin as we always do, recapping the previous day, and we will begin with the early games. I was lamenting it yesterday, Andrew. We always, and I love that about what you and Carmine do on your show, Puck Time at Wager Talk, and what we do here on the Ice Guys show. If we have a shitty day, we'll talk about it. And I know in the first couple days of the tournament, it was bad for me. Like, it was just not very good. And I'm like, holy shit, what's going on here? And it's like, just yesterday, you saw it yesterday. Yeah, not good. The first couple of days. Happy to report Friday was a lot better. Friday ended up being a pretty solid day overall. The one game that pissed me off was this game, though, Italy-Slovakia. I did have a piece of Italy plus the goals again, just like with the Sweden game. I just thought they're going to play hard. They're undermanned. They're going to give up a shit ton of shots, and they did again today, but they're just going to hang in there, just get the puck out and just survive. And they're going to be opportunistic. They didn't get many chances against Sweden, but they buried a couple of pucks in the net. And same thing against Slovakia. They didn't have a ton of chances, but they were opportunistic. They didn't need many shots to get that puck in the net. That's been the thing about Italy here in these two games. And then they've just relied on maybe a little too much their goaltending here in the first two games. But it's been the pathway to be competitive and not get blown out. And the one thing I was really I'm proud of, hopefully people were listening to this when I previewed Italy, Sweden. It was just such a strong sentiment of everyone that I have seen and on social media. Just Andrew, everybody was ready to unload their 401k and their investment fund on Sweden in that game. And I'm like, well, hold on a second here. They're going to play hard. They're in front of their home fans. This Italy team is comprised of professional players that play in a bunch of the club leagues and club teams over there. These are guys that can play. They didn't just pick up a bunch of Italians there on the downtown Rome and put them in a hockey jersey, and they never played before. That's not the case. These are professional players that play in pro leagues over there. They can play some hockey. And they got the home fans. They got, trying to, make a good show of it for Italy, the home country. And not to mention the Canadians, and there's a few that are representing Italy, playing for Italy. They've got the Italian connection because the stipulation is you've got to be with a club team from the Ice Hockey League, which is a league over in Europe that has Italian teams, Hungarian teams, and Austrian teams, the Ice Hockey League. And Bolzano is one of a couple, I think, Italian-based teams in that league. And so there's a lot of players from those teams and from that league representing Italy. There's Canadians that have Italian heritage. Like, look at the guy that's from Hamilton, my backyard here, Cristiano Di Jacinto. This guy's from Hamilton, Ontario. He's not from Italy, but he's got obviously the Italian bloodlines. He's got mother or father heritage that's Italian. And because of that, they permit him to represent Italy here at this event. So these are guys that can play some hockey. And you factor in the pride of wearing that, jersey for Italy. Most of these guys have a connection to Italy through their families, and obviously are playing there or playing for a club team from Italy. They're going to want to play hard and put the best foot forward. So what have we seen, Andrew? We've seen Italy just be competitive when I think a lot of people might have thought otherwise. And here they are again versus Slovakia, after giving Sweden a hard time. I mean, that Sweden game was 3-2 in the third period. It's hard to believe, but it was. They're right there. There's one shot from tying that game for most of that third, and then Sweden finally put it away late. And same thing here. Right in that game, start to finish, they do lose 3-2 to Slovakia, and they did get outshot again, but not the 60-22 discrepancy we saw against Sweden, 38-22. So they were a little bit more, as far as territorial play is concerned, a little bit more even there. And they fall just short. But I did take the over here. I did kind of think the Italian defense could burst a little bit. Didn't really necessarily happen. They did score enough for me. I thought we could get more out of Slovakia, so that fell short. We took a shot with the draw in Finland, Sweden. This is one I kind of regret because I hinted at it and I didn't bet it. I said I got a sneaking suspicion Finland's live in this game because I like the value. They were plus 170. They didn't play well against Slovakia. What was very disappointing for me, Andrew, about the Finland loss to Slovakia was, they played two periods where they were dominating the territorial play, carrying the play against Slovakia, but they were down. Unfortunately, Samuel Halavai, who is now a household name for Slovakia after that game, he was phenomenal, stood on his head. But when you're down going into the third, but you played well, you got to keep at it. Stick with it, and if not, amp it up. At least match the way you've played so far or amp it up. They didn't do that. I thought Slovakia had their best period in the third period against Finland. I thought they took a big step back. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You've dominated this game. You're supposed to come out firing here. You're down, and they didn't do it. Slovakia was dictating the flow, controlling the flow in that third period. So that was very disappointing. I was positive Finland was not happy the way they finished that game, and they played a really good game against Sweden today. Excellent game. And so did Saros. I was petrified about UC Saros after that Slovakia game because I didn't think he played that well. Boy, did he make amends for it. He was terrific against Sweden. And Finland gets a great bounce back 4-1 win. And we warned you, don't bet over with these two teams. Every recent Finland-Sweden game has been an under, whether it's international, world championship, Olympics, Four Nations. The Four Nations game last year was an under between these two teams. So they just play low-scoring, cagey hockey. And that's exactly what we saw again with Finland and Sweden there. So we'll start there, Andrew. Your thoughts on the early morning games that we saw on Friday?
Yeah, I think that I guess where I'll start, Ian, is that I'm not a soccer handicapper, but the tournament bracket a bit reminds us of what you see soccer handicappers talk about when it comes to the Euro Cup or the World Cup, the match day 1, the match day 2, the match day 3 feeling to it. And I was saying on some shows I did yesterday and leading into today, what's the famous handicapping quotes that we have is we only remember what we saw last, right? People are obsessed with the recency bias. And so what did we see in the first 2 games of today? Well, Slovakia looked great, and then they don't cover today. Finland looked bad, and then they win outright today. And so it's one of those things where people, if you go, and it's like sometimes it's so easy to be contrarian. And so what's funny is it's both money line and spread, as I was joking around earlier, that it's like a basketball and football sort of situation as well, where we're dealing with goal lines, we'll call them. But that's kind of how it was. So this is Slovakia coming off a win outright against Finland. And if you said, oh my God, this team is so good now, and you back Slovakia, well, then you weren't too happy because they might have, had the win they had, but they didn't get that cover. And then you look at the other side of things, Finland could not get their offense going. And you look at their lineup sheet, you look across the board there on Daily Faceoff and the lineups, they got a lot of talent. This team has a lot. So for me, I took a piece of that, sort of the system play a little bit from the NHL. It wasn't a shutout, but I had the first period over there. I couldn't believe the price on this one, Ian. I had a over a half team total first period at -115. And I know you suggested not going to full game over, but I did do that. So I had 2 and 1 on that game. Those were all just small pieces there. I did like the Italian side. And I think, again, if you just look overall today at a lot of the games, if you were contrarian a little bit based on what we saw in teams' game ones, you overall were able to do pretty good, I would say, but especially those early on, because Italy, it's just so funny because, it's like, I don't care if you win, just cover the number. And that's, we're talking about a team that's 2-0 ATS in a hockey game, but yet their goal differential is still piss poor, right? So, but
let's not kid ourselves. Italy still gets caved in most of the games.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like,
but boy, they hang in there. They got guts. They play their ass off, and it's been good enough to just hang in there and be competitive.
The thing is, though, Ian, we could say that, but at the end of the day, though, too, we're talking about goalies that have like 860, 870, 880 save percentages that all of a sudden are just, putting the cape on and playing fantastic. If you look at that game 1 for Sweden where they didn't cover, right? And I was, you can call me one of the victims. Like I said, I don't care about, I told everybody, one of my number 1 tips for international hockey betting is don't be scared to take the big dogs, because it's hard to beat anybody. If a team scores 1 or 2 goals and you have the other team -4.5, you're pretty much screwed. But at the end of the day, when Sweden had 60 plus shots on goal, if I told you before that game started, hey, Sweden's going to get 60 shots on goal, you might not think they were, they weren't going to cover that spread.
5-2 Sweden. You think double the output for Sweden, maybe at 10-2.
Yeah, exactly. So as much as, and so that's kind of the funny thing is we never want to discredit goalies or discredit, the goalies, but we also want to look at, was there a lack of execution as well? So, I mean, we'll talk about that when we go over the games on Saturday, but I think there's a mixture of execution and also the caved in style. But I guess, I agree with a lot of the stuff you just said. And I think my big thing is a big difference between match day 1 to match day 2. And then we're moving into the third game for each team. And obviously each team plays a back-to-back once, right? But it's always you only remember what you saw lately. And that Slovakia outright win and then going ahead and being a couple goal favorites, there's a big difference. And you and I talk about this in the summer together with CFL betting. And I know we're switching from, different sports here, but there's certain roles you like a team in, right? Like I'll never forget, there's certain teams that I prefer to back a team. Like the BC Lions for us in the CFL. For some reason, I like them as favorites. When they turn into a dog, they lose. Like some teams, I only want them as a dog, the Ottawa Red Blacks. I don't want to worry about betting Ottawa as a favorite. Not that we see that very much. So Slovakia turns from a big underdog against Finland into a good-sized favorite one day. I think they got a slice of humble pie served as far as the covering goes.
There you go. Exactly. They were a multi-goal puck line favorite all of a sudden against Italy when they're catching a nice healthy. Plus, goal number as a puck line dog against Finland in that first game, and there you see the difference in the results. And obviously, and I even kind of mentioned that with the Sweden-Finland game, where Finland, look, favorite, as good as they look on paper, not a great favorite. Look at them today as a dog. They beat Sweden, their rivals. Yeah. So another example of that. All right, we move to and by the way, I got to say something about Sweden. You mentioned the sleep issues you've had at times. Terry Edelman's having sleep issues for another reason. It's PTSD, waking up at night with Philip Gustafsson nightmares of some horseshit goaltending for 2 games from him for Sweden.
What's the deal with that? What's the deal with that?
2 goals against Italy were awful goals. The rebound control in the first goal was horrendous, awful, bad as it gets. And then the second goal that Italy scored in that Sweden game, right it through him, under his arm. He's got to have that. Short side. He's got to have that. You can't let that in. And I thought today, 4 goals for Finland, a couple of them were of the stinker variety. I don't think a couple of them were all that great, that he gave up against Finland. So Philip Gustafsson, some issues here. And look, he's had a nice season for Minnesota, but at this tournament, it's been left a lot to be desired. What we've seen from Philip Gustafsson in net for Sweden in these 2 games. And, it's not surprising, too, for Sweden, even though they lost today 4-1. Guess who gets the only goal? Anton Lundell, for Finland, I should say. But, you look
Rasmus
at it.
Dahlin for Sweden.
Dahlin, yeah, that's what I meant. Dahlin, yeah, he was obviously great, but not surprising for Finland. Anton Lundell gets on the board. I think he's one of the most underrated players on that Panthers team. You can say that probably about Finland as well. All right, the night games or the afternoon games, if you're in North America for Friday, there were 2 of them. When you look at the scores, obviously, we had France and actually this one was 10:40 a.m. Eastern time, late Friday morning over here. But France and Czechia, 6-3 Czechia. This was a great game for me. Swept the board on this game. We had Czechia team total over. And this is the game where I was hesitant because I said yesterday, I don't know if some of these angles in the NHL are going to translate here to this tournament, but I said, I feel in the pit of my gut it's going to work still. And that is we have France off a shutout loss, Czechia off a shutout loss. What do we do when we have both teams off a shutout loss? It's called the super system play. If you've been watching the Ice Guys for the last 2 years, we bet the first period over. We bet the full game over by Fecta. In those games, super system play, both teams off a shutout loss. We saw France lose 4-0 to Switzerland in their first game, and obviously Czechia got crushed by the machine that is Canada right now, 5-0 in their opener, and both teams off the shutout loss. And I was hesitant just because, look, France can't score 1 goal against Switzerland, and I was a little hesitant to pull the trigger on it, but I did. And I'm very glad and very happy that I did because obviously first period over, it was 2-0 Czechia. And then the full game flew over the total easily once France decided to get themselves right back into the game. But it ended up being a 6-3 Czechia win. They pulled away once again in the third period. But just really a 10-minute sequence where Czechia got sloppy, kind of fell asleep a little bit. Maybe not the greatest moments for Dan Vladar in net either for Czechia at that time, who got the start. Obviously, they were not going to start Lukáš Dostal on a second straight game after he was worked over by Canada, giving him rest. We're seeing that happen a lot. Just give the one goalie the rest on a back-to-back. But nevertheless, a little scare for Czechia, but they do get the job done there, 6-3. And like I said, it was a great result. We had the over by Fecta, and we had the Czechia team total over 4.5 there in that game as well. And then, of course, Canada. I know we've all been waiting to talk about Canada. What can you say? If they play like they have the first 2 games, who the hell's beating this team? Like, seriously, who the hell's beating them? I mean, they're just outstanding. And I said this yesterday. I'll say it again, Andrew. We talk about the offense, the firepower, the 4 lines of depth. We can talk about how this team can play a shutdown game, too. They can just shut it down. They can lock it up defensively. I think that needs to be talked about more than it is across the board.
Great point.
When they have a lead, they just put the foot on the throat, and they will just suffocate you defensively, too. So to go with all that firepower, to go with this unbelievably sick depth that you've got down the middle, to go with a power play that can put Crosby, McKinnon, and McDavid all out on it at the same time. And then you throw Celebrini in there, and it's good night. And holy shit, this guy, for not even 20 years old. You're not supposed to play this way on a big stage like this at not even 20 years old. You're supposed to have a little butterflies and a little hesitancy and make a mistake or two. You don't see this with Macklin Celebrini. He's unbelievable, this kid. like poise and just, comfortable in his own skin. The big stage is not too big for him, and he is thriving in it. And I have a small piece of Macklin Celebrini to lead Canada in points, believe it or not, in this tournament. And I know he's up against McKinnon, and I know he's up against McDavid and Crosby, and so many players are going to be in the hunt to be Canada's leading point scorer in this tournament. But I thought the value, even with at 19 years old, to bet Macklin Celebrini at what I think it was plus 900 that I had on that. And he's in the running right now. He's got a chance with the points he's put up so far for Canada in the first two games. The problem is he going to top McKinnon, because McKinnon's leading them in points right now, and he's just been terrific. I mean, who hasn't been terrific? Crosby's been great. McDavid gets them going with the first goal here in this game. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches. Bo Horvat plays on the fourth line. Can you believe that? Bo Horvat's a fourth liner on Team Canada, and he got a gorgeous goal in the first game for them against Czechia. So, Switzerland, give them credit. They hung in there. And I will say this, they got some good looks. They had their chances, Switzerland, and goaltending is no longer a problem. Jordan Binnington shut that shit down with any concerns about goaltending with his shutout against Czechia, and Logan Thompson, who's had a great season, well deserving of being on this team from a goaltending standpoint, got his chance today, and he was terrific. If you want to quibble, he didn't catch that, puck that, went off his glove, went off the crossbar, and then it was slammed home for the one Switzerland goal, but that's quibbling. He was phenomenal. What about the Snow Angel save he made very early in the game when Canada got caught on an odd man rush given up? He was outstanding. Logan Thompson, terrific game from him. Just the whole team, top to bottom, front to back, forwards, D, goaltending. Again, Andrew, with this, you keep playing like this, good luck trying to wrestle the gold medal from this Team Canada.
Yeah, I'll go backwards. I'll just pick up where you just left off there. I think it's so pivotal and so important for us to mention the decor and the goaltending as much as we mention the offense. Yeah. Because if the offense shows up even remotely to the way I have a feeling, Ian, the gold medal game, if God bless they get there, it's not going to be a 3-2 game this year. It was 3-2, way back with the golden goal. It was low scoring in Sochi, I believe. It was low scoring at the Four Nations. Yeah. I have a feeling that the winner of the gold medal game this year at the Olympics will put up 4 or 5 goals. And so if they can put up a number like that and defend the way that they are, you're all set. And, I don't really understand the stuff I'm seeing about Colton Parayko online. Have you seen some of this, Ian? You and I probably share a lot of the same Twitter stuff and see a lot of the same
even
hockey
the
and betting people.
For some people,
I don't get the Parayko stuff. Like Parayko, to me, if you look across the board, Devon Tays, Cale Makar, you've got, Sanheim, you've got Josh Morrissey, you've got Theodore and those guys. But Parayko is the one guy, but, he plays the stay-at-home, big body, simple defensive game. Yeah. And I feel like Cale Makar has ruined what people look at defensemen, kind of like what Steph Curry has done with point guards in the NBA. Not everybody's going to be the Cale Makar. Not everyone's going to be Steph Curry. He is as simple as it gets, a big body, shutdown defenseman. I thought he had a great 2 games in a row. I thought Parayko held it down. He was physical, didn't make any mistakes. And I think that you look at a guy
like taking the body clear in the front of the net and just getting the damn puck out of the defensive zone,
like
pisses people off.
We live in a world where if he gets to the red line and dumps it in, people are upset about that. Right? Oh, I'm sorry. He dumped and chased. I'm sorry. It's like ridiculous to me. So Binnington, I'm sure you've seen me online. I don't need to go on a rant about it. I've been Binnington's biggest supporter throughout the entire year. I could not give a shit less if he had a 400 save percentage for the St. Louis Blues. Call me crazy. Maybe I believe in magic, but when he puts on that Canada jersey, he's different. And so all the people sending me St. Louis Blues save percentages, I couldn't care less. I really could not care how he performed as a St. Louis Blues member. It just does not. I was in person in Boston for the Four Nations final. I brought my old man. I looked at him multiple times and said, I thought we were about to lose. And Binnington, you can tell me, Ian, right now on this show that McDavid won them the Four Nations, and I'll tell you back, Binnington won them the Four Nations.
Yeah, the 2-3 saves in overtime before we got to the McDavid goal.
Yes, that's how strongly I am. That's how passionate I am about it. And I'm not like his number one fan or anything. McDavid won the game, but I think it was his net to lose. And he gets and you know what makes me laugh too is that he gets a shutout and people find a reason to hate, because all those people wanted. I was talking to a guy on Twitter. He said, "Oh, I'm taking alternate over 7.5, 8.5 now if Binnington's in net." I said, does that person think that the St. Louis Blues are playing in front of him tonight, or does he not know that the Canada roster is playing in front of him tonight? So I think it's been awesome. And honestly, what you said there, Ian, as well. Look at Mark Stone. Even I got to give credit to Mitch Marner. I used to always chirp all the former Leafs or the Leaf players. He's such a good 200-foot player, and I'm a Maritimer.
Does a good job. An unbelievable saucer pass over a sprawling defenseman.
Unbelievable.
Mark Stone against Czechia. That was just a spectacular pass. Spectacular.
And if Crosby's your third most productive player or your third line center, what is this, a joke? He's your third line guy. Like, that's crazy. Wilson, he had some type of pain after a hit, so he took himself off, and then they throw McKinnon over the boards. That was a big topic on our show today with the hockey news. The line of Celebrini, McKinnon, and McDavid, that's just an absolute cheat code. The moment's not too big for Celebrini whatsoever. And I'm sure you've seen the quote going around on social media. Ryan Kennedy, he was in there from Hockey News talking to Drew Doughty, and he said that that Celebrini told him that he shit his pants. He was so upset that he took a penalty. And then Doughty said, "Listen, kid, relax. We've got the best penalty killers in Canada right behind you. You're playing great. We got your back. Don't worry if you take one penalty." So they're all working really well together. I had the team total back-to-back days over 4.5. Some might say, "Hey, look, it only landed on 5," and I guess I could be lucky. But
I started to second guess myself, and it's a point to what you said, is that one of my biggest strengths is I don't overthink it. And I was thinking, well, you know what? Off the big Czechia win, now you're playing Sweden. Do you maybe a little flat, little stale today, Canada? I'm like, screw that. They're still
Switzerland.
5 goals. Yeah.
Yeah, Switzerland. Yeah, 5. And that's the thing. But the plus 115 was just there looking at me. So, and I also had the over 1.5 goals there in the first period in that one. Just you know what it was, Ian, for me? It was kind of like the opposite effect of the double system play. It was both teams were coming off shutout wins. Yeah. So I was thinking that we were going to get two kind of teams that wouldn't expect the other team to have more skill, maybe. And we did see I would be very curious what that both teams to score first period would have been today, but 2-1 after the first period. So we have the first period over. Yep. And I'll just throw it out there. Hats off to you with that double system in the Czech game. I was so blinded by wanting to take Czech that I didn't even think about that over or the first period over. I was so blinded by that. And
we call it super system, not just system. We've called it super when it's both of the teams in the same game off a shutout loss. Yep.
But I'll tell you, I was just so blinded by the fact that, and again, I told you before the show, if you told me Czech scored 6 goals today, I would have told you that's enough to cover minus 3.5. Really, I didn't think they were giving up more than 2 goals, right? So you give up 3 goals against France. I'm shocked by that. But so I did lose that minus 3.5. So hats off to you with the over there. David Pastrnak, look, he's put up points here, but I'm seeing him fan on shots. I feel like he's really carrying the weight of the country on his shoulders, and maybe he's almost trying to do a little bit too much.
Yeah, there's some truth to that for what we've seen here from Czechia, because it was definitely not a smooth, comfortable win here today against France, when it could have been coming off the 5-0 shutout loss against Canada. But you got to give France credit; they were opportunistic. Certainly made that game a little more difficult on the Czechia than maybe it felt like it could have been otherwise. But still, they found a way. They're now 1-1. Canada off tomorrow. They get the job done against Switzerland. I will say this, though. Switzerland, I got to mention this. I almost forgot that. I knew there was something I wanted to mention. Kevin Fiala, terrible news. Just a freak collision with Tom Wilson during that game. Leg injury, had to be stretchered off the ice, Kevin Fiala, and his tournament is over, unfortunately. They've already ruled him out for the rest of the tournament. Kevin Fiala for Switzerland. So tough loss for Switzerland. Obviously, one of the cogs up front that they count on. And now Switzerland will have to move forward in this tournament without Kevin Fiala. So there'll be a little bit of a shakeup now as far as their forward group is concerned. There'll be more, on the plate of Timo Meier, Nico Hischier, Niederreiter. They're going to have to rely on them a little bit more as well. I think Dennis Malgin also suffered an injury in this game for Switzerland as well. So, like I said, they come out of this game not only losing the game, but perhaps a couple of key pieces up front. Malgin may not play the next game, maybe longer, and now they've lost Fiala for at least the rest of the tournament. And that was not something that LA Kings brass was very happy to see either. With Kevin Fiala, their player, going down, and it's one of the reasons why there was some concern about playing this Olympic tournament in the middle of an NHL season, because if someone goes down, the NHL club that has that player not going to be thrilled about that, losing a player to injury over there at the Olympic tournament. And the Kings are finding that out the hard way with what happened to Fiala today, Andrew.
I'll put this with the utmost respect. It sounds bad what I'm about to say, but if you were to let's
get off Tom Wilson's back too. I saw it. I saw it on Twitter saying what a dirty player he is. Suspend him. Oh, come on, man.
Even Nico Hischier said he forgives him,
and he has gone over the edge. But this ain't it. This was just an unfortunate collision. Like, we got to stop.
Nico Hischier himself said it, Ian. Yeah. Nico Hischier himself said he doesn't. He's not bothered by it.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. But I was just gonna say, I'll be honest. If you were to, you could probably have given me. You probably could have given me a -250, and I would have bet the yes on, will a superstar style player probably get hurt? And I know that makes me sound like an absolute jackass, and I would never actually bet something like that. But that's one of the reasons for why the NHL wasn't there for many years, not to mention the schedule. And if we look at the condensed schedule, Pierre McGuire on Jimmy Murphy's The Eye Test show has stated multiple times that he believes that is a factor of why we've seen so many injuries so far in the NHL season. So, we would be upset if it was any type of player. Any human being getting hurt is horrible, but for it to be an impactful player, they just traded for Artemi Panarin, let's not forget. Yep. Now Fiala probably out for the rest of the year. It's a very serious injury, so you really do feel for him, that's for sure. So tough to see. And you know what? Hats off to Team Canada. They all get off the bench. You can tell they just wanted the game to end. I actually do feel bad for Tom Wilson, because he made the Olympic team because he's a good player. He brings that physical element. If Canada does end up playing America, I can't wait to see him out there doing his thing. But he's a good hockey player. And so I feel bad that the whole hockey world now, he's probably sitting at home or the hotel being like, man, I really didn't mean to do anything bad. And now people are going to think like, oh, he's here at the Olympics to do stuff like that. Right. Which it was a freak accident.
Yep. No, it was. I mean, if you want to give him hell for ramming a guy's head into the glass or cheap shot in a guy from behind into the boards, go for it. But this was just an unfortunate, accident, collision, whatever you want to call it, with an unfortunate result. And unfortunately, like I said, for Kevin Fiala, won't be returning for the rest of the Olympic tournament. All right, let's get on to Saturday's games. We got 4 of them. We will begin with Slovakia, Sweden, 6 a.m. Eastern time will be puck drop for this one. There are 2 games at 6 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. This is the first one. So we've got Slovakia plus 450 underdog, plus 2.5 on the puck line. Sweden minus 625 favorite, minus 2.5 on the puck line. And the total here, 5.5 in this game. What have we seen so far about Sweden? Now, I want to see who's in net for them, because from what my seat here, I've seen 2 subpar performances from Gustafsson. And I'm not totally convinced, especially, I think they gave Gustafsson the benefit of the doubt because we still beat Italy 5-2. We still got the win. Even though a couple of those Italian goals, Andrew, were not the greatest to give up, you're still our guy. We tabbed you to be our number 1 goalie. We're going to come back to you here against Finland in the big game. And unfortunately, it was, I thought 1 or 2 of those goals were savable, is the term here for Philip Gustafsson. So to me, he's not had a great tournament here in these 2 games. And of course, they lose 4-1 to Finland. And now the question is there a goalie change here, or do we go back to Gustafsson, or do we give Jacob Markstrom a chance here in net for Sweden? So that's kind of what I'm waiting on, because if it's Gustafsson again, and I've kind of we've clearly seen him struggle a little bit and fight with the puck, fight the confidence a little bit in these first 2 games. I'm definitely interested in the Slovakian side plus 2.5 here a little bit in this game, because Slovakia's just got a knack for being in the game. We saw them upset Finland. We saw them just do enough against Italy, but obviously failed to cover as a favorite. Back in that dog role, though, now, where they obviously beat Finland outright and getting 2.5 goals. And I don't know, I have not seen 60 strong minutes from Sweden. I mean, even the Italy game, too, there were lapses. Even though they were 60 shots, I get it, but there were some lapses, too. from that Swedish team against Italy. And of course, we saw them struggle to put the puck in the net against UC Saros, who was very average against Slovakia, but he looked awesome, lights out against Sweden. Do you just say great job by Finnish defense, great job Saros, or do you criticize Sweden for just a little bit of a lack of ability to, put their chances in the net? So if it's Gustafsson, I really like Slovakia. And even if it is Jacob Markstrom, I still could only look at Slovakia here, to be quite honest, plus 2.5. I mean, I think this is a competitive game. We saw Sweden in a 1-goal game with Italy in the third period. You could say what you want, that Italy's hanging on, 60 shots given up. It could have easily been 10-2, but at the end of the day, it wasn't. At the end of the day, it wasn't. It could have been 10-2, coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. It was 3-2 in the third period, and Sweden's life and death against Italy, hanging on with a 1-goal lead. At the end of the day, not even close as a favorite cover in that puck line against Italy. And then we saw them fall short against Finland, some goaltending issues, questions about whether there's been enough clinical surgical finish, because with all the chances and all the shots they've piled up in 2 games, it's pretty disappointing. They only had, 3 regular goals against Italy, and then they got the empty net coming in. And then, of course, just the 1 goal against Finland. So there's been real concerns about Sweden offensively burying the chances, when they've had the opportunity. So right now, for me, it's Slovakia plus 2.5. I'm very much interested in that. That's probably the side I'm looking at. Couple of props on the Slovak side I want to point out. We have to look at your boy, Andrew, from Montreal, Juraj Slavkovsky. You're going to put him out there at plus 300. I know why that price is what it is, because you're playing Sweden. This is, one of Slovakia's toughest games here in the preliminary round. And as a result of that, Andrew, you're getting a better price with the goal props on some of these Slovakian players like Slavkovsky. But at plus 300, with how dynamite he's been internationally in these international tournaments representing Slovakia, it's hard not to look at Juraj Slavkovsky. It's hard not to look at the old man on the team either, because he's got 2 goals for Slovakia, and he's also playing on the top line for Slovakia. That would be Adam Ruzicka. Here for Slovakia. You could find him plus 500. We're talking about bargain bin range prices for both Juraj Slavkovsky plus 325 at BetMGM and Adam Ruzicka plus 500 at BetMGM. And both of those guys have 2 goals. Both of them have 2 goals so far in this tournament for Slovakia. I think that's great value. And again, with these goalie issues, if it's Gustafsson again, we know he's been giving it up. Like the old Tragically Hip song, what's troubling you, Gus? What's troubling Gus? What's troubling Gus is he sucks right now in this tournament. He's giving up goals he shouldn't. That's what's troubling him. It's troubling Swedish fans. It's troubling Terry Edelman. It's troubling Minnesota Wild fans. It's troubling everybody. It's watching Philip Gustafsson operate.
Team Sweden backers.
Yeah, that too. Exactly. So, yeah, for me, I like Slovakia plus the 2.5 goals. I'm interested. Andrew, what do you think here? Slovakia, Sweden.
I'll take the over in this one, Ian. I know we're seeing quite a bit of juice towards that 5.5, but as long as it doesn't get too ridiculous, you can shop around and, get something in the 20s. I saw one book have a 130. Get something in the 20s for the over 5.5, and I'll take that. So obviously, this is the last game that we'll see Sweden play. And or of the round robin here, and
5.5 is minus 124 to the over at FanDuel. Just
perfect. I'm completely fine with that. And so, if we're honest here, this Sweden team, the way I looked at it here, they're 0-1. They're 0-1. They're not 1-1. They're 0-1 because I don't care about that match, the game that they won. They're 0-1. So they're going to be playing this game as if they're 0-1. Like, they don't care. And realistically, they didn't look good against Italy, despite the 60 shots. To your point, Ian, they didn't put the puck in the net. I can say they had 60 shots. We can say the goalie played well for the team that didn't play, but at the end of the day, you have to put those chances in the net. So, but to your point, do I have the confidence anymore? Have they given me the confidence to want to lay a number as far as a goal line is concerned with Sweden? Probably not, unless you and I finish up the show and I look at it more and I like that, there's, to me, regardless of who covers this number here of 2.5 goals, I think we get over the 5.5 number. Right. I think Sweden's going to bounce back offensively.
I lean that way with the total for what it's worth.
Yeah, after a top performance. And you mentioned it already, but why you're getting that number for Slavkovsky, because they're projecting 1 or 2 goals, and that's one guy out of a handful of guys to score, but
Right.
he is going to drive the offense. So, you get 4-2 Sweden, right? You hit your Slovakia bet. I hit my over. If you get 5 goals out of Sweden, maybe you get 3 goals out of Slovakia. Who knows? But I think this 5.5. Do you agree with the sentiment that I'm saying here, Ian? Am I being harsh to say that Sweden really is 0-1 in this tournament? They're not 1-1. I mean,
well, against opponents worth of shit as far as quality is concerned, and some of the best countries in the tournament, and Italy, Italy's playing hard, but Italy's not that. It's just it is what it is. The first real challenge, tough opponent, meaningful, big game, big opponent was Finland, and they didn't pass the test. They're 0-1. If you think of it that way, I have no issues at all if you're thinking of it that way.
Yeah, I was joking around on the hockey news saying, would you rather start off the tournament bad or start off the tournament good? Like I would probably have preferred to be in Finland's shoes going into that Sweden matchup, right? Yeah. Like, a guy I work with, Michael Agello, he was talking about, what? I think that Finland was looking ahead, even though it's the Olympics. He called it a look ahead spot. Oh, we're playing against Slovakia. Well, we can't wait to play Sweden on Friday, and then they look that way against Slovakia. You look that way against Sweden. So I'm looking forward to the Sweden that we get against Slovakia themselves. And like, how much of a mumbo jumbo would it be here if we've got Slovakia beats Finland, Finland beats Sweden, Sweden beats Slovakia? What kind of twist would that be?
Yeah, no kidding. It would be one hell of a twist. There's no question. That is the one thing I think that I would look at too. What I might do too as well. And I always say this because what if this is the day where some of these Sweden chances and plethora of shots go in for them? I might do a Slovakia plus 2.5, half of the bet on the puck line, half of the bet on the team total for Slovakia. That's a way where I can, in case the defense does falter. Although I want to point this out, Andrew, very important point. Friday for Slovakia against Italy, they rolled with Stanislav Skorvanik in net. He's their second goaltender. They saved the stud that was on top of his, stood on his head, essentially, against Finland. It was great against Finland. He was phenomenal in that win over Finland. They saved Samuel Halavai. They did not start Halavai against Italy. I think it's because they're saving him for this game against Sweden. So you're getting the guy that was magnificent, quite possibly, in net for Slovakia against Finland. You're getting him here, I would think, against Sweden. So will they be able to? And we already know there's goalies that have bamboozled this Sweden team so far in this tournament. Yeah. Damian Clara bamboozled this Sweden team for Italy. UC Saros, who could barely stop a beach ball against Slovakia, all of a sudden is a brick wall against them on Friday. So Sweden's been goalied twice, in my opinion, in this tournament. And if it's Halavai, we saw him goalie Finland. Scary game for Sweden if it is Halavai in net. We'll see.
I'll make a vow here. I'm going to be up at 7 a.m. Halifax time, drinking my coffee, and I'm hoping by the end of the second period, I'm tweeting out that GIF of the floodgates opening up, where there's like just a dam breaking open with the flood, because hopefully that's the Swedish offense waking up and the floodgates opening up. That's what I'm hoping for. Halavai, Ian, look. You know me, I've always been a hockey guy. I've gone into the analytics a little bit, but I mostly just use them to help my case with stuff. Yeah. But the more I've gone on this year with analytics, I've mostly just used them for goaltending, not as much the team stats. And if we're talking about goals saved above expected, like the end of the day, there's some, like, we look at Sweden, there were some games that they've played, like these 2 games so far, where they could have scored 2 or 3 more goals. And we could go on and on about coulda, shoulda, woulda, like you said. But at the end of the day, if they bring some of that, the only thing about Sweden that I worry about, and this was my worry coming into the tournament about it, and we're 49 minutes in here on a Friday night, and I haven't taken shots at the Maple Leafs yet, but they kind of have a team that's built like how the Maple Leafs are built in the postseason. They don't go to the dirty areas. Yeah, they don't score goals in
Pedersen, deep. No, Nylander comes and goes.
How many shit goals
not an offensive player. Jesper Bratt's been awful this year for the New Jersey Devils. You're right.
Every goal they score, Ian's going to have to be a highlight. I don't see a
lot of big game players on this Sweden team. Not right now.
Every goal they score is going to have to be a beauty. They don't score any garbage goals, right? That's a problem.
Yeah, there's issues. You're right. There's some of these guys that are either having shit NHL seasons or we haven't seen enough of them in big moments in the playoffs rise up and get it done. There's a bit of that on this Swedish team, so something to be aware of. As far as, I do think Sweden's going to score. I do think they're going to bring some offense here. The question's how much. What I would say is Joel Eriksson Ek, I think, still got value. He's on the top line. He's been shooting a lot in this tournament. He's had his chances. I would look at his props, goal, assist, point, whatever the case may be. And I keep going back to Dahlin. Just keep going back to Dahlin. Dahlin's been dangerous from the blue line every time he's been out there for Sweden. So I would look at props involving him here as well. All right, let's move on to the other game at 6 a.m. Eastern. Latvia, Germany. We've got Germany minus 300 favorites, minus 1.5 puck line. Latvia plus 240 underdog, plus 1.5 on the puck line. 5.5 being the total here in this game. Give the U.S. credit because, I thought Latvia was going to drag them into a bit of a closer game than the 5-1 score would indicate, but U.S. was full marks for pulling away. Latvia was hanging on for dear life in the second period. They were in their own zone the whole period. If not for Elvis Merzlikins, who got a mercy pull in that game, it could have been worse. So, but that being said, Germany, we saw it against Denmark. They got a workmanlike 3-1 win against Denmark, but, they're facing Freddie Anderson in that game, who's not had a great season, and they got the 3-1 lead, and they kind of put it on cruise control from that point on. And so trusting this team fully, in a game like this against a Latvia team that's 0-1, they're going to want to put a better foot forward here against Germany. And with all due respect to Germany, we love Draisaitl. We certainly like J.J. Peterka. We certainly know they've got a little bit more NHL game breakers, if you will, up front for Germany in this tournament. Stützle has been excellent. He was flirting with a hat trick, obviously, in Germany's last game. Latvia is going to be, I think, playing real hard, real well here. Try to keep this one tight. And Merzlikins, I thought he was great. In a game where he gets pulled after giving up 4 goals, we can still say he played great against the States because that could have been
6.
Worse. Yeah, it could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse for Latvia if not for Elvis Merzlikins. So I have no doubt they'll go back to Elvis Merzlikins here. None whatsoever. He will be the goaltender in this game for Latvia. You would expect, obviously, it to be Philipp Grubauer for Germany. He was very solid in the opener. Didn't face a ton of rubber. Actually, he did, believe it or not. Denmark did have shots in that game. But Philipp Grubauer is very solid, and he's had a good year. It's a bounce-back year for him. If anyone's watched, obviously, what he's done in the NHL with Seattle, with the Kraken, he had played pretty well for them the last month or two leading up to this Olympic tournament. I'm taking a shot here, Andrew. You can't go through the whole card without a draw. I'm taking a shot with the draw here. Latvia and Germany. It's got that draw feel to it. It wouldn't shock me if maybe we get a little overtime here. Latvia is obviously going to want low and slow hockey to keep this a little bit of a low-scoring affair. They're capable of doing that. We've seen Latvian teams give Canada in international events, whether it's Olympics, World Hockey Championship, World Junior Hockey Championship, where they've really given Canada some problems. How they beat Canada, last year at the World Juniors. I think and don't sleep on what Latvia. This is a Latvian nation. I've said this for years. They are getting better as a group. I think they're going to want to tighten things up. They did give up a little too much grade A to Team USA in that first game. Grade A chances. There's no question about that. I think they're going to be looking to probably tighten things up at the back end a little bit. Keep in mind they've got Uvis Balinskis, who I think is still worth a shot as far as a goal prop, or at the very least an assist or point prop from the back end for Latvia. He's been shooting the puck a lot. He's been playing with great confidence going back to when he was, with Florida before the Olympic break. He's on their top pair. Uvis Balinskis has been really solid for them. And then up front, you got Girgensson. You've got Teddy Bluger, who's an NHLer. You've got Sandis Vilmanis here for Florida, another guy that's been playing with the Panthers here. And plus some of the other players in the lineup. Rudolf Spalser's played in the NHL. Kaspars Daugavins played in the NHL many years ago. A guy that might eventually get to the NHL. He's in the AHL, and he's a good scorer there. Edwards Trollmax, who is his nickname is Trail Mix. It's the best damn nickname you'll ever get. It's awesome. Trail Mix for Edwards Trollmax there for Latvia. But they've got a couple of guys that can put the puck in the net. I just think now against Germany, Germany's not going to be that 4-line wave. And keep in mind, they don't have that Quinn Hughes and on the back end Germany like the U.S. did. And I found Quinn Hughes was the fire starter, the engine for generating such of that confusion with Latvia in the defensive zone. It's already hard enough trying to sort out which forward you've got. But when you got Quinn Hughes then starting to dangle and skate around the offensive zone, that's a scary proposition. And Latvia had a real problem, Andrew, sorting out D-zone coverages in that game against the U.S. once Quinn Hughes got that puck on the string. Germany's not going to be, threatening that way, quite like the U.S. was. So I think from a defensive standpoint, a little more manageable matchup here for Latvia. So I think, probably lower scoring. And I think the draw is live here. I really do think we've got overtime potential. Latvia can be competitive enough to force this beyond 60 minutes. Andrew, what do you think here, Latvia, Germany?
My mind is going a bunch of different places with this game, which is never a good thing when you're handicapping. But immediately it was stood out was that plus 100 on the team total to get to 4 for Germany. And the reason why it stood out to me, first of all, I love that price, short plus money, plus 100 or better with the team total. Secondly, I think that their game against, the Danes, where I felt like they might have taken their foot off the gas pedal a bit.
Yeah, I wasn't happy. I had Germany team total over 3.5 in that game. Because I
had Germany puck line.
I was just can get me fourth goal against this guy. Come on.
I know. I had Germany puck line, and I was starting to get sweaty because one goal would have costed me, right? Yep. But then you look at it, and it's heavy juice towards the under at like 130-ish here for the 5.5. But then the more I think about it, the more I listen to you talk, and the more I think about the way Latvia is going to want to play. Like, Ian, I really can't, even though they're coming off USA. So I always say, you got to remember what you saw last.
Yeah.
But I really can't see Latvia leaning on their offense to win them games, right? They want to drag everybody into like a, this is like a soccer match where you've got one team that's very, very, inferior, where they're going to make it a 1-0 game and as long, 0-0 as long as they can. And so that's kind of why I would lean towards the under. So I'm not sure where I'm going to get here with this one. I don't think Germany loses, though. And I know that's not really the hottest take in the world, but I think Germany wants to get to the USA game saying, obviously we've both looked great and we beat the teams we should beat. Leon Draisaitl, some might argue he's a top 3 or 4 player in the world, right? So he wants to get to the USA game and say, hey, guys, we're both 2-0 here. What do you have for me? Right. So here's this kind of interesting for you here. Germany money line, Sweden over 3.5 goals together is plus 110. That's not bad. Yeah. Germany wins the game. Sweden gets to 4 goals. You find yourself at plus 110. I throw a little parlay at you here on a Friday night. Yep. I think that's not bad. I think that Sweden finds their offense. I think they bounce back a little bit. And I can't see Germany losing. Whether it's a 1-goal game, because there's something inside me, though, Ian, that is a little bit where I was a bit more comfortable laying the puck line. And I'm not overly a puck line better in hockey in general. There was something where I was comfortable against the Danes, but against Latvia, I don't really want to be sweating a 3-1, 2-1 game. I feel like it could be a 2-1 game, and then I'm just waiting on that empty net goal, or I'm waiting on something else to happen. But I don't think Germany loses here. And I get it. I'm saying that about a minus 300 here, but this will be something I bet, looking at it before I hopped on with the show with you here, plus 110, Germany wins over 3.5, excluding overtime, team total for Sweden. So not a bad bet there. And I think we get some action on both games.
Yeah, no question. And I'm just looking at the prices right now. Bet365's got this draw at plus 650. Holy mackerel. I love that price. That's definitely, in a game like this, I think that's definitely worth.
What about this, Ian? We don't want to get greedy here, but I'm going to say, if you like the draw, you probably like the under. What can you parlay draw and under all together? I know that sounds crazy, but you're probably not going to. I truly believe.
Plus 1050. I just did plus 1050.
There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
What I would do though, is just to be a little safer,
2-2 draw.
Might bump the total. If I were to do a draw and under, I'd bump the under probably up to 6.5, just for a little extra cushion. Not that I'll need it, but
3-3, 3-3, 2-2.
Or even you could go even 7.5. But bump that up if you can, the total if you're able to. But plus 650 at Bet 365 for that draw. I guarantee. And that's why it's important to shop around. BetMGM has that same draw at plus 400. So my goodness, you're talking about plus a 250 worth of difference And plus 370 is all it is at FanDuel. Holy mackerel. So the draw at FanDuel is plus 370, MGM 400, Bet 365 plus 650. Wonder where you should bet it.
And what do you think about goalie save props for Merzlikins?
Yeah, I could see that. Now, although I will say Germany did not have as many shots as I thought they would against Denmark. You're right. Once they got the lead, I mean, I think they had 20-some shots in that game. That's not going to cash a saves prop against Merzlikins. So they got to be a little more assertive with the lead. You can't just sit. That's why I think they could let Latvia hang around, because they didn't really put their foot on the throat of Denmark.
But there's also, I'll be the devil's advocate with you here, though. They didn't punish Denmark, so maybe they're still focused, right? They're not coming off a 7-1 win. They're still probably pretty focused as well.
Yeah, very fascinating. Like I said, I as far as German props, I mean, Tim Stützle has been amazing. It's hard not to look at his props in some form. Leon, of course. Those are the obvious choices. I've made a case for Dominic Cahoon. He's been quiet so far, but that's a guy with NHL experience. Dominic Cahoon. I still think from a value standpoint, there probably is some for him and his props for Germany here in this one. All right.
I got to throw this out here, Ian. I found this so ridiculous. I'm on DK right now.
Yeah.
And it just drives me crazy. They've got a Milan madness, Latvia, Germany over, Slovakia, Sweden over, Italy, Finland over, Denmark, USA over. I know we're not supposed to think like this, but I'll tell you what right now, guys. One of those games
is not going under. 4-0 to the over.
Yeah, one of those is going under. So it says right now that so far 170 people have placed this bet. Like, they might as well light that money on fire, go down to the soup kitchen, donate some money, because and you can clip
help out
this.
The needy, help out the less fortunate. Don't help out FanDuel and DraftKings. Trust me, guys.
Don't bet every over on the board in a parlay.
Yeah, exactly. No, and look, there's been more unders than overs full game in this tournament anyway. So what would make someone think that a 4-0 over parlay, promo parlay, being offered by somebody's a sure shot? Come on.
Yeah.
Like, let's screw in and let's think about what's happening here. But hey, some people I know won't do that. All right. Next game is 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. Italy and Finland. We've got Finland minus 4,500 favorites, minus 4.5 on the puck line, and Italy plus 1,600 on the money line, plus 4.5 on the puck line. 6.5 the total in this game. Finland off the 4-1 win against Sweden. Italy off another competitive defeat. If you backed Italy in the first two games, and I know there's people that have, and I had them against Sweden, I had a tiny shot of them too, and against Slovakia, 2-0 against the spread, so to speak, 2-0 against the puck line, as plus goals, puck line underdogs both times. That's the only way I could look once again here in this game. I mean, I'm not ready to lay 4.5 with Finland off beating their rival, Sweden. I'm not. I mean, I don't want to make it too much about a spot when you're talking about an Olympic tournament. It's not like the NHL where it's an obvious bad spot. It's an obvious good spot. But you did just beat Sweden, who is like, Finland versus Sweden's like USA versus Canada. Finland and Sweden do not like each other. Okay. And when you beat them, it's big. And now you also beat them on Friday. You have no day off. You're going to have to roll right back here into Saturday and play Italy. And all we've seen Italy do is, they get outshot both games against Sweden and against Slovakia, but they hang in there. They get good enough goaltending from both guys. It was Clara against Sweden, and even Davide Fidani played pretty well for Italy and net against Slovakia as well in that 3-2 loss. So I could only look at plus 4.5. Could only look at plus 4.5 here with Italy as far as the side goes in this game. 6.5 is interesting because, I took a shot with Italy, Slovakia over 5.5 simply because I thought, could this be the game the defense caves in and the goaltending gets lit up for 8 goals? And it didn't happen. Again, they gave up just the 3 non-empty net goals to Sweden. And then they gave up just the 3 goals to Slovakia. So, let's put it this way. If Sweden's going to get 3 non-empty net goals and Slovakia is going to get just 3 goals, period, that's not good for anyone betting over 6.5 in an Italy game, because, and you're not going to really usually get more than 2 goals out of Italy. And they've scored exactly 2 in the first 2 games. So that's been the issue. They've been able to defend and get just phenomenal goaltending enough to just, hang around in these games and obviously give themselves a chance. So the only thing I'm interested in here probably is that plus 4.5 with Italy here. I mean, Finland certainly, if they're on and they're dominant and the puck's going in, could they win by 5+? Absolutely. But Finland's been able to. Italy's been blowout proof so far. We'll see if they can be that way a third straight game. Andrew, what do you think here, Italy, Finland?
Well, is there a world where Finland can score 6 goals and Italy covers? I'm looking at the team totals right now. Over half a goal is -180 for Italy. Over 1.5 goals is +255.
Yeah.
I throw this out there with the idea behind this. I strongly believe anybody interested in backing the +4.5 number for Italy in this game should take the over 1.5 goals for Italy team total.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's crazy to say because that's +255. And I know we're talking about a 4.5 number here. I think that's the safer bet to make. I think that there's value on, like, if I'm playing this game right now, you gave me a bet to make. I'm taking Finland over 5.5 goals. That's what I'm looking at.
First period goal, which cashed against Sweden. I could see that here, where they were ready to take on a behemoth of international hockey, Sweden. And yeah, it was a gift rebound from Gustafsson. Terrible. But at the same point in time, they still got that goal in the opening period against a powerhouse in Sweden. And they're going to face another one here, a hockey hotbed in Finland. And I think that first period goal at a huge plus price with Italy could be something worthy of consideration here as well.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if Italy wants to score 1 or 2 or 3 goals, God bless them. I'm cheering for them. But I think that we're going to see Finland get to 6. Right. So whatever happens in between those two lines can happen.
Yeah.
But I think Finland's getting to 6 goals. And so you can shop around and get the best price. You can probably get a -105. I'll look at a couple other books, but I'm seeing -105, 110 with over 5.5 for Team Finland. And put it this way,
-102 at BetMGM for over 5.5.
There we go. Well, put it this way: like there's times in the NHL where if the Oilers are playing a team that they're a big favorite in, I'll take the Oilers over 4.5 goals. So we're taking Finland over Team Italy. And we're taking Finland over 5.5 goals. So, whatever happens in between, because if with your +4.5, Ian, because that's the side, I'm not joking, that's the side that I initially looked at when I looked at this game. I was like, I got to hop on this train here of the Italy covering and they're taking everyone to the promised land. But I looked at it, I'm like, man, they're going to need 2 goals to cover.
No.
The number's 4.5 goals, and then I was thinking to myself, if I take the 4.5 on Finland, what am I going to be sitting on my chair hoping that Finland gets to, right? Because this, like I saw it today happen to me with the Czech game. The second the underdog scores, you feel like you're screwed because every goal means so much when you have a -3.5 hockey spread. So that's why I prefer to take the team total over 5.5 for Finland.
That's how I felt, Andrew, with having Italy plus the, what was it, 4.5? I think it was against, or 5.5. I think it was 4.5 against Sweden, just like it is here. When they scored that first goal of the game against Sweden, I was like, holy shit, I'm all of a sudden in pretty decent. As it was +5.5 against Sweden. I'm like, holy shit, I'm in decent shape now, just like that.
Yeah. You win, you get 1 goal and you're like, here we go. Right. So that's how, anyway, I'll tell you, and I have not made a bet on this game yet. We'll see where I get to, but I think that we'll see if we get to some type of because
as you can tell, I'm interested in Italy and Slovakia on this card as dogs. I'm going to do the puck line team total over split on both. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
I like that team total for Italy. I think if anybody likes that, you're better off. I do think that if you like Italy, you're helping towards the over because it's not like I think Italy is going to have to score.
And in net, you're going to get Saros off a good game, which means he usually has a less than stellar game the next time out. He has not strung good games together this year, and he's coming off. It's either him on a back-to-back off a great game, and usually he has a subpar, or that's Kevin Lankinen. The guy's been a disaster this year. Kevin Lankinen for Finland, or for Vancouver, rather. Yeah. He's big time. Big time.
We'll see. That first period is going to tell us a whole lot. When I saw Canada get 2 goals today, even though it's back-to-back games where they landed on the exact number I needed them to, the early parts of a team total mean a lot to you because you don't want to be cheering for too much garbage time, right? So if Finland comes out with 2 or 3 goals early on the first 25 minutes of the game, 30 minutes of the game, I'll be feeling pretty good about it.
You know what I'm feeling pretty good about? Matt Bradley scoring for Italy in this game. He's got 2 goals. Think about it. They've scored 4 goals in the tournament. He's got half their goals. He's got 2 of their 4 goals. It's a great story. Matt Bradley representing Team Italy here at this tournament. He is a guy that is he's from Vancouver, BC. It's not that he has Italian heritage in his family. Actually, no. Matt Bradley's playing for his nono. Actually, there is one side of his family. Guido Garzito, 95 years old, apparently still alive. So he does have that connection, but he also plays for an Italian club team over in Europe. That ice hockey league I talked about, he plays for Bolzano over there, which is an Italian club team. So he fits the criteria of being able to represent Italy. I looked at his numbers at Bolzano. He's got 11 goals in 40 games, but he's got 40 points in 41 games there. 11 goals, 40 points in 41 games. So he's actually almost a point per game player in his club for his club team in that league for Bolzano, the ice hockey league. So again, that's why don't lose sleep on these are guys that can play. Now, obviously, they're up against the best, and they're a little outmanned. No question about that, against the Swedens and against the Finlands. But they got guys that can play at a respectable level professionally on this Italy team. And Matt Bradley's one of them. 2 of the 4 goals scored by him. And I'm just looking at it right now as far as the goal props here for this Finland-Italy game. Matthew Bradley, BetMGM plus 750. Holy shit, that's got to be a sprinkle for me, and it will be. Plus 750 when he's got 2 of their 4 goals, plus 750 at BetMGM. Now, that's the kind of bargain bin value we're looking at. There's no question. That's the kind of price
on that
I get excited about as far as betting goal props. Let me see what it is at Bet365. Matthew Bradley here in this game. Let me just see. Go on down the list. Plus 850 at Bet365. So, wow, it's a really good price there. I mean, that's the player to target. You know, he's got 2 of their 4 goals if you're going to bet someone for the Italian side. For Finland, I keep waiting for him because he's on that Rantanen and Hintz line. He had been red hot for the Ducks for Anaheim before the Olympic break. I'm waiting on a Michael Granlund sighting, and I think for me, this could be it. So Michael Granlund, you know, he's still on that top line for Finland. I think I'm interested there. On the second line, you've got Lehkonen, Teravainen, Lundell. Keep betting Lundell. Lundell shows up every game. He's one of the most underrated players in the NHL. So I would say Granlund, Lehkonen, Teravainen, Lundell. That quartet for props on Finland here for this game. I'd be interested in that as well. All right, last game, Andrew. Here we go. Denmark and the United States to wrap up Saturday's action. Right now we have, looks like the U.S., or Denmark rather, plus 1,100 and puck line at, just get the the problem is FanDuel's got plus 1.5 at like these crazy prices, so you got to go to BetMGM.
I'm seeing plus 4.5 minus 130, minus 4.5 plus 110.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you got to go to BetMGM for the more accurate readings of the puck line, because FanDuel just posts the minus 1.5 plus 1.5. But yeah, it's minus Denmark is plus 4.5 on the puck line, and USA obviously minus 4.5 on the puck line here. Denmark plus 1,100, plus 4.5 on the puck line, and then we've got the US minus 2,500, minus 4.5 on the puck line here in this game, and the total here sitting at, it looks like there we go, 6.5 shaded to the over here for Denmark and the US. There we go, as we get the odds up on the screen for you for this final game. This one kind of feels like Canada part 2, where it's just, do we just go to USA team total over in this game and just assume that they're gonna be able to score their share of goals here against Denmark? Now we have to assume for Denmark that we are going to see Freddie Anderson. I will say this: the team total is 4.5. The price is too big, minus 210. If you're going to look at the U.S. team total, you got to go to the 5.5. And the 5.5 for Team USA is plus 105 right now at BetMGM. So if you're going to look at a team total for Team USA over 5.5 is probably what you got to go to at plus 105. I'm interested in it, though. I don't trust Freddie Andersen, and I know Germany only scored 3, but we just talked about it. I think part of it was when they got the lead, they put the brakes on a little bit in that game. I think if they had really been assertive and aggressive and just, looking for more offense in that game, maybe they figured it's Denmark, they don't threaten us offensively. We're just going to, try to just, sit back, take care of our own net, take care of the D zone once they had that 3-1 lead. The USA didn't appear like I guess once it got to 5-1 against Latvia, we did see the U.S. kind of sit back just a little bit. But still, there's just a lot more firepower here that Denmark's going to have to deal with on Team USA. And with Freddie Andersen in net, who's been lit up this season as a member of the Carolina Hurricanes, it's not like I'm overly optimistic about his prospects of putting up good numbers here against USA here in this game against the Danes. That being said, I thought the Danes, they carried the play at times against Germany, had their chances, but Grubauer was very solid in that. Let's not forget what Denmark's got on their roster. They've got proven guys that can put the puck in the net. Oliver Bjorkstrand, Nikolai Ehlers, Lars Eller, former Canadian with your team, long time ago, of course. They've got some NHL talent up front. Patrick Russell, this is a guy that played for the Oilers years ago. Patrick Russell, he plays for Team Denmark. He's been over in Europe for several years, but he used to play for the Oilers. On defense, they've got a couple. They don't have many on the blue line that are NHL as far as current NHLers, but Oliver Lordson did play in the NHL for a little bit. But the bottom line is there is some scoring abilities with Ehlers, with Bjorkstrand, with Eller on this Denmark team. We'll see if they're able to find the back of the net. Latvia was able to get one past Hellebuck. You got to assume with no day off, with a day off and not back-to-back, rather, for Team USA, that they'll go back to Hellebuck. Do they maybe give, Ottinger a start? Who knows? Swayman, are they in the mix here? But it was Hellebuck in that first start. And it is, I think, the front end of a back-to-back for Team USA because they play Germany Sunday. So maybe it will be a situation where Mike Sullivan, Andrew, decides save Hellebuck for tomorrow against Germany and end up going to either Swayman or Ottinger, probably Ottinger, here against Denmark. So we'll see. But I'm thinking of a bunch of different things. I'm thinking maybe first period over. I'm thinking maybe full game over in this game. And I'm certainly interested in USA team total over, especially if it's Freddie Andersen in net, because I've still got doubts. Let's not forget they had 3 goals early second period, Germany, already against Freddie Andersen. And it's not like they had a ton of shots on goal. At that time in the game, I think it was 3 goals on 12 shots for Germany against Frederik Andersen. But then they had a 3-1 lead. Denmark wasn't, finishing their chances. And then the longer it went 3-1, the more they were just focused on, let's get this game over with, just sit on the lead. USA may not be doing that as much. USA may be pressuring for more offense here and certainly has a little bit more depth of offense than Germany. Germany's top heavy. They rely on Draisaitl, Stützle, Paterka, and those sprinkle of NHL guys up front. USA is kind of like Canada, not as much depth in my mind as Canada, but still 4 lines, and all 4 lines can do damage for Team USA. And you've got unbelievable mobility from the back end. How's Denmark going to defend that? USA's got way more mobility and just creativity, ingenuity, puck, movement from the back end with Quinn Hughes and others that can do that at a high level for Team USA. And I think that's going to be put stress on this Danish back end here, and including Freddie Andersen. So that's where
it hurt them not having enough stay-at-home guys, Ian?
Yeah.
Stay-at-home defensemen? Does that hurt them at all? I mean, can they end up having a man caught up in the rush and then a 2-on-1 go the other way? Could that not hurt them, having too many cooks in the kitchen? If McAvoy decides he wants to hold on to the puck,
McAvoy can play rover. Faber can, and obviously Sanderson, Werenski, and Hughes are amazing at doing that. And look, Quinn Hughes is still I think he's improved a lot defensively, but he'll have a screw up every now and then.
Yep. Who's their best defensive defenseman on the team?
Slavin, by far. It's not even an issue, not even a debate. Yeah.
And then who else? I mean, everybody else loves to play forward. I mean, as a Canadians fan, I love hearing, Lane Hudson might as well be a forward. Well, I can't wait to see Quinn Hughes play in a big game because he's sure as hell hasn't played in a big game as a Vancouver Canuck, right?
Yep.
I mean, this guy's a great point scorer. Let's see him play defense in a big game. I'd look forward to seeing him play against Germany or one of the bigger teams. So I'm just saying, I think
before I throw it to you on this, I'll just end by saying over bifecta, whether it's over first period, over full game, and USA team total over. I've got all three of those that I've got circled, and I'm interested in all three of those bets here in this game. What do you think, Andrew? Denmark, USA?
Look, short and sweet, nothing against USA. We've talked a lot on the hockey news about the fact that they do have a very, very relaxed schedule. We can give credit to Germany. Some people I've spoken to like Germany better than Czech or better than even Slovakia, some of these teams. Who knows what Germany's capable of, because we haven't seen them play anybody yet. But 4.5 goals. Look, this is the number here. We're talking hockey handicapping with 4.5 goals. Denmark gives us one early goal. All of a sudden, this is a USA team that has to get to a big number all of a sudden. Denmark gets to 2 goals. We're cooking. I mean, this is a USA team that will have to put up a big number on the board. So look ahead spot against Germany, front half, because usually we fade back.
That's a good
second
point.
half
Germany
back
next.
back, right?
It sounds like Denmark plus 4.5 and a Danish team total you're liking. Yep.
Exactly. I mean, usually we look at fading a team second half of back-to-back. Sometimes you can fade the team in the look-ahead spot and fade them early on. Where I could be wrong in this, though, is that USA says we're going to stomp them. We want to press on their throats. We're going to want to blow a team out of the water. That could very well happen. But, show me a low-scoring, grinded-out game where Denmark drags them into a boring fight. They chip one in. You get a Lars Eller, you get a Nikolai Ehlers goal, and you go from there. So you're going to give me plus 4.5 here. I'll gladly take it. And then I very much look forward to Germany against USA. And I think that, honestly, I think that if we see a cover tomorrow from Denmark, I think that actually bodes well for USA going against Germany. I think that it's a good thing if USA comes in a bit pissed off. Like if they win, let's say even if they win 6-2 or 5-1 or whatever, they're going to still be pissed off they didn't win by more.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, it's worth noting in reference to, Andrew liking Denmark plus 4.5 here. What was that margin of victory again for Team USA against Latvia? Oh, yeah. 4. Does 4 cover the number for Team USA in this game? No, it does not. There you go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see.
And I think, let's be honest, too. Forward-wise, little more potency, little more firepower in Denmark compared to Latvia up front. Like you got Nikolai Ehlers. That's a really good NHL player up front for Denmark. You got Oliver Bjorkstrand. He scored 30 goals before in the NHL. You've got some guys that can put the puck in the freaking net for Denmark. So, like I said, they could be within that number. And again, they've got the one eye to Germany on Sunday, front end of a back-to-back. So there's definitely reasons. And I think if Denmark chips in enough offensively, which I think they got the capability to, and the U.S., I think, will light up Mr. Anderson a little bit, assuming he starts, and I expect he will. Yeah, this game's probably got a chance for the overs to hit, in my opinion, as well. As far as props, like I said, don't reinvent the wheel or don't overthink it for Denmark. If you're going to look at anybody, look to the NHL bound guys. Those are the guys you're going to trust to make it happen for you. Lars Eller even has scored a goal for Denmark in this tournament. So Lars Eller, he's worth a shot. Bjorkstrand and Ehlers, it goes without saying. Like target those guys. If you're going to bet Denmark props, look at Eller, look at Ehlers, look at Bjorkstrand. Those are the ones you're going to – even Alexander True, look at him because he's centering the top line with Ehlers and Bjorkstrand for Denmark. So there's definitely some good value there. And I think for Team USA, obviously they had the 5 goals against Latvia in their first game. I will say Tkachuk and Tkachuk, the Bash brothers as they called them, they look pretty good, on the working together in that game. So they were noticeable. They had that very good goal. But I'm going to go back to one of the – Tage Thompson, obviously, what a backhand. What a sick backhand he had against Latvia. That backhand goal, guy his size not supposed to have hands like that. Absolutely ridiculous. That backhand goal, roof under the bar for Team USA against Latvia. He's worth a shot. But I'm going to keep it to one of the most red-hot scorers in the world right now. And Andrew, this goes back to what he was doing with Colorado before this tournament started. Brock Nelson. You can't stop Brock Nelson. You can only hope to contain him right now. And I am so happy he started the tournament, Andrew, with a 2-goal game, because guess who took a damn shot with Brock Nelson 50-1 to lead the USA in goals. This guy.
Nice.
And I think I'm live. I think I got a ticket at plus 5,000, 50-1 that's live with the way Brock Nelson has started. So keep it going, Brock. Don't stop now.
I love it. I love it. And the thing is, that USA offense going to be a lot more spread out than people think it'll be. Like, they don't have the Connor McDavid. I'm sorry, they don't. They don't have a Connor McDavid. They might not have a Nathan McKinnon on that team. It's going to have to be real spread out, And the thing is, the Tkachuk brothers, I mean, nice shot by Brady in game one, but those guys, they're going to be the crash and bang goals. It's going to be different guys that are, Jake Sanderson scored a goal in the Four Nations final. Who else scored? I guess Brady, Tkachuk, and Jake Sanderson were the two guys. So it's not going to be just one guy that gets everything going. Like, Nathan McKinnon, if you asked him how his Olympics is going so far, I bet you he'd say he doesn't even feel like he's playing very well. And the guy's got a ton of points, right? Like,
yep.
He's got goals in both games and playing pretty well. So I feel like that's really bodes well for your Brock Nelson prop. The fact that I think it's not going to be just one guy lighting it up. You're not going to see Jack Eichel with 6 goals. It's just not going to happen.
No, Brock Nelson's in a 9-way tie with 8 other players for 2 goals, leading the tournament in goals so far. And he's only played 1 game. Keep that in mind. Some of these other guys with 2 goals have played 2 games. Brock Nelson's only played 1. But Nelson, Stützle, your boy from Nova Scotia, Nathan McKinnon, Timo Meier, Adam Ruzicka. That's why I liked Ruzicka for Slovakia. He's got 2 goals. Matthew Bradley for Italy. Louis Boudon, who's flirted with a hat today for France with 2 goals. Who would have thought Louis Boudon would be flirting with a hat trick against Czechia? Who had that on their bingo card?
Ian, how many guys do you think because of this tournament are going to earn contracts?
Like a Matt Bradley. Who's going to look at a Matt Bradley? Maybe Matt Bradley. This is the best thing in the world representing Italy and scoring 2 goals. You're going to catch people's attention. Scouts are there. Scouts are watching. Maybe he's going to get a North American opportunity. I think that's probably part of the thinking too. Maybe we're going to get a look. Maybe that's going to happen. I'm shocked. I'm shocked Switzerland did not start Leonardo Giannoni, by the way. And Alex and I were talking about this. And Alex, of course, that does goalie charts, so he knows the goalies well too. We were a little surprised Leonardo Giannoni's not gotten a longer look at the NHL, or at least in North America in some form, because Leonardo Giannoni's had an unbelievable international career. He's done everything internationally. He's won, club championships, Spengler Cups, playing in Switzerland. He was the World Hockey Championship most outstanding goaltender last year at the World Hockey Championship, Giannoni, and yet they decided to start Schmid over a guy that had a shutout against France in his first start against Canada. Not that it would have mattered. I'm not saying Canada probably is, let's be honest, Canada's probably still beating Switzerland, even with Giannoni in net, but I think Giannoni could have maybe kept some of those goals off the board, because I thought there was some PU goals for Schmid. I know he made that crazy save on Crosby, but those two of
Crosby should have had 2 goals.
McDavid shot needs to be stopped. We love McDavid, but you got to have that if you're Schmid in the first period. Yeah, you got to have that short side, no question. So I was wondering, is Giannoni? I thought Switzerland probably should have given Giannoni another start, but they decided not to. All right, there you have it. A shout out to everyone in the chat watching. Hit the like button. Of course, Andrew did a great job with us here on this edition of the show. Again, just we'll get to the ads, and then we'll do bargain bin special of the night and best bets to wrap up the show in just a moment. Make sure you check out wizardsportspicks.com. Of course, great handicappers. It is a great roster. It's been great for me since the site launched. Number 1 in the NFL on the website. It was a great NFL season. Number 1 in the NHL on the website as well, wizardsportspicks.com. Profitable NBA season, college basketball going on too. So make sure you check it out, wizardsportspicks.com. Patreon.com/IceGuys, $10 per month. Goalie charts, totals charts, our daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day for the Olympic hockey on the Patreon page. And until NHL resumes, a bonus for our Patreon members, you get, for me, NBA and college basketball bets posted on the page every day. As we continue to cap those sports on a daily. Well, not NBA for the next week, but still college basketball. So make sure you check it out. Patreon.com/IceGuys, $10 per month. And of course, iceguys.myspreadshop.com, the Ice Guys store. Check out it check it out, get yourself some gear and some merch over at the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night, best bets to wrap up the show in just a moment, right after we hear a brief word from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Shout out to all our great sponsors, and make sure you check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadsshop.com. All right, bargain bin special of the night. I didn't know if I needed to remind Andrew about this segment, so I don't know if he has one picked already, plus 300 or better prop. But Andrew, I know if you've got someone in mind and you didn't pick one out pre-show, just throw the name out there, goal prop, point prop, whatever the case. If you think it's plus 300 or better, I can give you the price. But is there someone you got in mind, Andrew, for bargain bin special of the night for Saturday?
I didn't have one that was quite 270 or 300. I had a 275 for you, so I'm gonna call an audible here. But I'll tell you what that one was. Regardless, was Ricard Raquel plus 275. So maybe you could shop around and get to the plus 300 if you're able.
I will do some line shopping, and you never know. You never know. The way I line shop, I'll probably find the damn thing at plus 300.
I'll make you go do some shopping there. But I did like that one quite a bit. And if we want to get real creative, how about my guy Erik Karlsson plus 475? And I'll give you my best bet of the day here. Oh, sorry, I won't want to get ahead with the segments.
We'll get to best bet in a sec. Okay. Yeah, no doubt. I'm just looking at Ricard Raquel here. Hold on, let me just see what we can find with that. I have a feeling. Let's see where.
But he was my guy I was looking at, Ian.
All right, let me just see. Where is it that? That is the one I'm going to try to get to bargain bin pricing for you. I really am. Hopefully he is, but we'll see. Let me just see. Okay, and one more place. If not, we'll give you Karlsson. That's what we'll do. Yeah. If not, we'll give you. Yeah, we're gonna have to give you Karlsson. All right, we got plus 500.
An honorable mention for Ricard Raquel.
There and Ricard Raquel. All right, there you go. So plus 500 for Karlsson at FanDuel. That's the best price. Yeah, Erik Karlsson, FanDuel plus 500. So there you go. Erik Karlsson for Sweden plus 500 for Andrew with bargain bin special of the night. I'm gonna go with that Italian player. I am. I mean, Matt Bratt, 2 goals. He's been involved. He has been, and then he's had other chances besides the 2 goals that he has scored so far in this tournament for Italy. So against Finland, and again, in net, you're either going to have Saros, who's inconsistent, or you're going to have Lankinen, who hasn't had a good year in the NHL. So there's going to be opportunity for Italy to find the back of the net, and who better than Matt Bradley, leading them in goals, tied for the overall tournament lead in goals so far. So there we go. We'll go with Matthew Bradley for Italy as far as bargain bin special of the night. Again, plus 850, I think, was the price, the best price at Bet365 with that. So there you go. Matthew Bradley, Italy, plus 850 at Bet365. Hell of a price for my bargain bin special of the night. All right, best bets. Andrew, we'll start with you. What do you got for best bet?
Look, I don't have confidence in the goaltending right now for Sweden, which is very, very shocking because I did going into the tournament, but I do think their offense bounces back. The floodgates might open for them. I think Slovakia gets on the board as well, whether it is the top guys or whether they find some depth scoring. I think the over is the play. If you want some goals, you want to pick an over for the day on Saturday, let's start the day off with a great note. Over 5.5 Slovakia and Sweden for my best bet. And Ian, always great to be on with you. Shout out to all the viewers. You guys are so loyal. Always great chatting with you guys through social media, through the YouTube comments. Let's make some money. I'm feeling the pressure here with the best bet. Let's go over Sweden and Slovakia over 5.5.
Yeah, no doubt. Like I said, the best bets for me have struggled in this tournament. Like, unfortunately, Friday was a pretty good day. We had more wins than losses, but the loss was the best bet, and it was on a Slovakia over. So hopefully you have better success with the Slovakia over, because I had Slovakia Italy over for the Friday best bet, and of course that one ended 3-2 when it was all said and done. My best bet here for this event, or for this Saturday slate, I'm going to keep it simple here, and I'm just going to go over 6.5 Denmark USA. that is going to end up like I like the first period over. I like the U.S. to score a bunch of goals against Freddie Anderson. There's Red Light Rasico. Remember that from back in the day? Red Light Anderson, Red Light Freddie here for Denmark. I think the U.S. will score, but Andrew mentioned like in Denmark plus the puck line, plus the goals there on the puck line. I could see Denmark chipping in here. Let's be honest. Latvia doesn't have a whole lot of depth offensively. So I think this will be a little bit more of a tougher challenge, at least for Team USA. And don't forget, you got Hughes and Zworenski and Faber and all these guys that are mobile, but they'll give up odd man rushes. They'll give up transition offense the other way sometimes and transition chances. So Denmark might be able to burn them a time or two with that. So I will just go to the over 6.5 there, minus 115 Denmark, USA. For my best bet here for this Saturday slate. Andrew, this has been fun. It's always good to do the shows with you. Of course, I was on with you for the Every Game on the Board recording we did a few weeks ago, but awesome stuff. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just enjoy the tournament, guys. I think that international betting is different than regular betting. We're talking about goal lines. We're talking about different stuff. I'll just go back to how I started off with you, the different match days, right? There's certain things that are going to mean more than others. And I think that certain teams, there's certain games that mean more than others. So really look forward to kind of seeing what happens on one game. Like I truly do believe that in my handicapping that USA knows they're playing Germany. So even though it's not a back-to-back fade, it's a front half of the back-to-back fade. So this scheduling stuff really does matter. So yeah, look forward to it. Go Canada. Can't wait to watch it. And I'll tell you what, my last piece of advice, I do think compared to last year's, at the Olympics or Four Nations, I do think when we get into those medal rounds, I think we're going to see some goals. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, like I said, it started out real slow in the goals department in this tournament. Like we had just we had one game in the first 2 days of competition combined. The six games in the first 2 days, one went over the total. One. Yeah. And that was Sweden, Italy. That was the only game that went over and it needed empty net goals to get over the total. But we started to see it a little bit more. We saw France, Czechia go over the total on Friday. And I think gradually now we're starting to get into second game of the tournament, third game of the tournament for teams. A little more familiarity, more cohesion offensively, line combos, more familiarity, and more offensive chemistry generated as the game.
And I'll just mention, I forgot to mention, but every day at hockeynews.com, doing my videos with them. It's really been a really great group. So they're writing stories and I'm bringing on different guests. We've got two guys, writers from the hockeynews.com that are on site in Milan. So it's been a real privilege for me. Half an hour after Canada played, I'm talking to guys, Ian, that just did an interview with Drew Doughty, just did an interview with Macklin Celebrani. And so I feel really privileged to be doing that. So, and not to mention, it kind of helps out with the betting stuff a little bit, hearing some quotes, which I kind of like.
No doubt. A little more insight and intel never hurts the better. Or the handicapper for sure. Andrew, we thank him for joining us. Hope everyone enjoyed the show. Hit the like button on the way out. Reminder, the Ice Guys is with you every day throughout the Men's Olympic Tournament. And if you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For Andrew McGinnis, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll be back to preview Sunday's games right here on the Ice Guys.